Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of my Blender tutorial series. Now, based on all the content on my channel and what you guys have requested, I'm going to be doing a rundown of how I go through modernizing or putting game assets into CG and being able to use them more easily in like Blender and rendering it out and making animations. So I usually use the models resource depending on what I want. People have ripped a lot of things, but sometimes there are new games that haven't been ripped yet, or people just haven't gotten around to it. So there are tools out there that you can use to rip your own, but the easiest way to get game models is to use the models resource. So I'm going to be doing Pokken Tournament's Shadow Mewtwo. So we're going to click on them, hit Download Zip Archive. I already have it downloaded in the right spot, so we're going to go into Blender. And so the first thing you want to do in Blender, if you've just freshly opened it up, is change from Blender Render to Cycles Render. I'm going to turn on my screencast keys. So, if you've never opened Blender before or never used it before, this is Blender. I'll be doing a probably a UI/navigation episode because there's a lot to cover. But I'll be kind of going through in this episode using what I need to use. So it's kind of learn by immersion. Test things out as you can, but we're gonna want to file, import, FBX, Shadow Mewtwo. Now a lot of game models would be in your either DAE or FBX or OBJ, but usually the one you want to use is either FBX or OBJ. Actually, you know what? I think all of them work, except if you're using an STL, don't. You don't have any. I don't think STL carries UVs or armatures, or I don't think even textures. So he's pretty big right now, so we're going to want to press S to scale him down, click, and then press the delete/period key on your numpad to focus onto your 3D model. Now, if you press Z, you can see through it, see the armature and the mesh. We're going to want to move the armature to a different layer. We're going to save that from a little bit. And we're going to want to modify this right here, this mesh right here. Now, most game models, freshly ripped, will have overlapping vertexes sometimes. So see how that right there is an open hole. So we want to select everything and hit Remove Doubles. Now what that does is it says, okay, whatever points are overlapping, just make it one point. And so now any point you choose will be connected to the points around it. Now, this weirdly tessellated thing right here, it makes everything into triangles. Game engines use triangles instead of quads, usually, I think. So we're not going to go ahead quite yet and detriangulate everything, because it does sometimes mess up your UVs depending on the structure of the triangles. So we're going to want to just leave it right there. We're going to sort through the mouth, and we're only going to use one because why use multiple? So you can check over here in your outliner what is shown. So we want to use normal and middle. Select those two, hit M, and move it. So I don't think I explained earlier, these are your layers. I moved the armature to this layer to just keep it out of our hair for right now, and this I'm just not using. So here's our main workspace right now, and we're in solid mode. So if we want to do material, there's no material assigned to it yet, or there is and it doesn't work, so that's the next step. So we're going to want to open up a new window here in Blender, go into the node editor, and go into here. Now these are your nodes. Here's the output, what the software interprets, and then here's the input, your textures, and then here's all the math and stuff behind it. So this is a pretty convoluted, and I think it's pretty universal for all FBX files, so we're not going to be wanting to use this. So we're just going to delete this as well. So now we're just left with the textures and the material output. Now we're going to use Blender's internal shader, principled. Most commercial softwares will have something like this. I know Arnold has, I think it's AI Standard Surface. Same principle. You have base color and all the other attributes like metallic, specular, roughness, all sorts of stuff. So connect that up here and connect your texture here. So you want to know what is what. So for example, this is Mewtwo body, which is your albedo or diffuse, so it's your color. And if you check here in material, you can see that, oh, it's already applied. But there's still two more, which there's the specular, which is, what parts are shiny, what parts aren't. And then there is the normal map, which is like smaller details that you don't want to put in geometry because it will, slow down the game. So we can't just connect it up to normal because we want to say that this color is actually a normal map, not just a color. So we want to hit that. We want to search for normal map. I should turn off caps lock. And then connect this up to here by dragging, and then drag again into normal. Now it changed a little bit. We'll be able to see it more in depth once we actually start rendering. So that's that. So that's the body. And so now we have the stone or whatnot. Same process. Base color. Whoa, now there's 4 here. So let's see. So there's normal, specular 2, specular 1. Huh. So I'm guessing specular 2 refers to the roughness, and specular 1 is the actual specular. Normal map. And now we apply it. And there we go. Nice. So what we want to do as well, save, because you never want to lose your progress. And so now we work on the eyes. Same concept again. And what we can actually do is just copy and paste. Is there a second? Ah, there is. So there's sometimes in game models they'll have 2 layers of eyes. These textures have a alpha channel we just didn't use yet. So we're going to go through that. So essentially what that means is we have 2 layers. So here's the outer layer, which is just the eyelid. This looks solid because we haven't given it a transparency yet. And then there's the eyeball underneath. So what we want to do is get a mix shader. So we're going to mix principled with a transparent. But if we do that just right off the bat, it's just going to be half transparent and half not transparent. So what we're going to do is use the alpha channel of the expressions and use that as the factoring. Oh, other way around. There we go. And now, it doesn't look like it right now, but if we quick hit rendered, it will show up with the iris underneath. So, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to make this orange part glow. So we're going to do the same thing we did for the eyes, except instead of using a transparent, we're going to be using a emission. So we're going to find emission, which is essentially a light and a mix. Here we go. Emission, and use the same color for the emission. Now what we can do is I'm going to create a separate diffuse just so that we can work with our color ramp. Now this essentially crushes it down to a black and white spectrum, and so we can say, okay, I want to use between here and here. Alright, so we make that glow, and so then we use this as the factoring. So we put that back here, and if we test it out, either one of 2 things is happening. Okay, good. So this has started to glow. This is the first what we had, and then now this is glowing. So we're going to do the same thing for this. We can actually copy these nodes and say, okay, I want this, this, and this. Copy, paste. And there. So actually this, I believe, has a different frequency we can use. Has a different, There. Okay, that looks pretty good. And, Mewtwo is a organic creature, so we're also going to want subsurface scattering, which essentially is, when you hold your hand up to like a strong light, you can kind of see through your fingers or when the sun is behind somebody, you can kind of see the blood vessels in their ears. That's the same. That's what subsurface scattering is, because it's not a solid. We're not like marble. We're organic creatures with layers of skin. So this is the subdermal layer. So we're going to change that because it's preset for skin, and our blood vessels are usually red. So I'm going to go for like a deep purple maybe, and crank that up. Now we're also going to want to set up some lights so that we can tell what's going on. So I'm going to be using some suns. So standard 3-point lighting, key light, rim light, and secondary light. We can change the intensities, so I'm going to change this to maybe like 4, make this blue, change it to a 2, and then make this like 0.6 and make it orange, or slightly less saturated. There we go. Alright, make sure if you have a good graphics card, you're switched to GPU compute. You can change your graphics card settings and user preferences, system, CUDA, and enable them. So now we want to go into rendered mode, and now we have our character here. So I think the subsurface scattering is a little bit too much, so what we can do is change the radius. So if we make it smaller, that means the light penetrates less into the skin. So we're also going to want to desaturate and darken. Saturate a little more. Nice. Okay, so what we had, so let's do 0.15. So what we had before is that, but now we have this. Debatably, I like it. I like it better. I like it a lot better, actually. So we're gonna do the same thing for the others. You can actually mouse over the color, hit Control-C, and then for here, just hit Control-V, and same here. Yep, Control-V, and it will paste it. I'm on the right one. Yes, okay, yes I am. So now we can change it so that the subsurface is 0.15, or no, not that, 0.15. Same for this, 0.15, and the depth, what did we save the depth as? 0.2, okay. 0.2. And 0.2. Alright, great. Save it, yeah. So let's save it, and then render it, and there, nice. And in my opinion, the eyes are a little too dark. So what we can do is select the eye, or the eye, please, thank you. All right, that's right, because we didn't change the texture. So we didn't change the material. Let's do that. And let's use a principled. If you just hit, actually here, or no, principled, and we're going to mix it with an emission. I don't think the eye has any normals or even specular at that. Well, we'll enable specular, but we're not gonna use normals. Use base color and emission, base color. There we go, and there we go. Now if we go into material again and render it out, the eyes are a bit more glowy. Great. Okay, so as we have so far, we can either change the geometry to make it look more high resolution, or we can start rigging. Now, what we're going to want to do as well is, untessellate the geometry. Now, I'll show you what happens when you untessellate it, or when you detessellate it. So you hit Alt-J, and it mostly works, but you can see that these faces on the edge here don't really like to do that. Same with these. So what I'm going to do is just select them, and I believe it was these, and I can't remember, I think it's these three. Alright, now we do Control-J, or Alt-J, and nice, okay. Our geometry is looking okay. So now what we can do if the texture looks fine, we can go ahead and apply a subsurface or a subdivision surface modifier. Now what that does is it smooths out, or it adds geometry and it smooths out what we have. So I can show the difference between the two. It's more pronounced when we flat shade it. So that's what we have so far. And then if we subdivide it and even more, so it makes it just smoother and a more, unified geometry. So we want to smooth that back out. We're going to want to preview it at 1. Same thing here. Can we untessellate you? Not safely. Let's just keep trying it. Yep, that looks fine. Alright, that looks okay. And subdivide. Great. Is that? Wow, okay, that's just literally just separated. Okay. And we can also change how it looks because, this is a sharp edge here, but when you subdivide it, it becomes smoother. We can get back around to that if we want to. What next? Let's rig it. Let's work on the armature. Right here, not there. I'll move all of this to the first layer that we're working on, and I'll enable the armature. Now, first thing you want to do, enable X-ray so you can see right through it. Now, when you import models like this, often the orientations of the bones will be incorrect. So, this bone usually would be that way. So what we want to do is a very simple fix for this. We want to get, is there a keyframe for this? Whoa. So there's 2 keyframes for it, so we're going to want to delete these keyframes so that we save what we have so far. Now, so to fix our armature, we can say, okay, well, this joint belongs there. So just enable snap to vertex, and we just snap it to that. Same thing with that. Select it, snap it to there. Select, snap, select, snap. And now for this one. Oh, that's weird. That is weird. Alright, so we want to pivot around that, so we'll want to select that base, Shift S, cursor to selected, change our pivot point to 3D cursor, and then select these bones, and hit RX. Let's do -90. There we go. Alright, that looks good. Save our progress. And actually, what we can probably do for these is individual origins, RYY 90. Actually, change these to RYY 90. These didn't work as I had planned, so RZZ? Do we want RZZ? Yeah, RZZ 80, I guess? What? Or RXX? Whoa, that's wacky. Okay. I guess we're just going to use these RXX 90, there, RYY 90, and then change these RXX. That is funky. Well, we can just change it. There we are. And the thumb doesn't really matter too much, I don't think. Repeat the process. All right, so we have the foot we need to fix now. -90. Okay, should be fine. Now we can move him. So let's save. Say okay. Yep, works good. So now what we're gonna also want to do to start getting to a point where we can present what we're looking at. Where's the create tool? Oh, it's not in that. So we'll want to recenter our 3D cursor, Shift-C, hit plane, scale 8, so it matches that, and we can enable a shadow catcher in here. When you render it out, looks pretty good, if I do say so myself. So, what we want to do now is create IKs. Now, IKs are very useful in animating and doing like walk cycles and stuff, because instead of having to, you know, if I want to move this leg, I'd have to first rotate this, or, come on, rotate that, and then that, and oh, the foot's not in the right spot, so I want to rotate that a little more, and then that a little bit less. So, instead of doing all that weird tweaky stuff, we're going to be able to control it with the foot bone, which is pretty neat. Same with the hands, just move the hand around and it'll move the arm accordingly. I think we can do the tail actually as well. Yeah, let's do the tail too. So, go into edit mode, find your foot, hit Control or Shift D, constrain it to the x-axis, and then Alt P, clear parent. Same with this, Control D or Shift D, x-axis, and then Alt P, clear parent. Now, what we can do is do the same thing for the tip of the tail. And move on to the hands. And now we can start adding IKs. So we want to select the shin joint, the joint right before the one we want to control. Go to Bone Constraints, Inverse Kinematics, select your armature, and find the bone. Now we haven't named it yet, so we can name the control. However, I just know that they're 0.001. Let's go back here, set the chain length to 2, and let's select, which bone is this? L foot 001. Yep. Alright. Now when we move L foot 001, it moves along just like that. Very, very good. And actually what we want to do really quickly is move these just slightly inward like that. Because if it's straight up and down, the IKs don't know which way to point, and the poles will get messed up. Same thing with the elbows. Tail doesn't really matter for this case, so let's keep continuing on. IK. And same thing here. Bone constraint, inverse kinematics. Now we want to count. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Chain length of 8, or 9 actually. Now we can just move this and it'll move the tail. Nice, that's really cool. And same thing with the hands. Whoa there, buckaroo. Now that's peculiar. Is it because we didn't set the chain length? That'll do it. Now we know what we're doing. Okay, great. So, next thing to do, create poles. Now what poles do is it essentially says where the elbow points, or where the knee points. So what we can do is literally just take these constraints, duplicate, oh there, buckaroo. Oh, because we're in pose mode. That would do it. Okay. Bring up to the knee level. We're going to want to name them accordingly. Our knee pull. L knee pull. And let's duplicate these. in on themselves to about here. Let's rotate you 90 and you negative 90. There we go. And we'll want to scale them up just to grab them easier. Now we can do elbow, pull, R, elbow, pull. Okay. I don't think we need a pull for the tail, so let's just save that. Okie dokie. Now we can go back into pose mode and set the pulls. Same thing, armature. Whoa. That's not what we wanted. We want... Oh, wait a sec. Did I name that wrong? Yep, I did. Nice. Okay. We want to change this to foot 1, and then this to L knee pull. Okay. Whoops. Just a weird naming convention. Okay. Armature. Search for pull. Where's the R elbow? Did we not name it? No, we did not. Alright. Pull. L knee pull. Armature. R knee pull. Yep. Now when we move the foot, it will always point towards that pull. Same thing here. Armature. And there we go. All right. Nice. So now we've imported it, fixed up the textures, given it materials, rigged it correctly, given it some nice lighting. So now we're going to want to start to, maybe render it out. So what we can do is create a camera. Press 0 to go into the camera, G then Z twice to go along here. I'm going to make it a square, so we're going to go into the resolution, change it to, 512 for both. That's pretty good. And we can go on the 3D cursor. Whoa, that's wacky. Okay. And I also like to do this a little bit, so let's set this to 60. All right. And now we can rig it and maybe even animate it if we so choose. Whoa, that's wacky. All right. So we haven't done, the exact. Oh, right. So one more thing we need to do is constrain the foot bone to the IK. So we want to copy the rotation of the foot controller. Same thing with this. Copy rotation, armature, R foot 001. There we go. Now we can just move it however we want. Great. Should we do the same with the arm? I don't see why we really need to. Just with this we should. So, to make a good pose, we want to have some dynamic posing. So let's rotate. Point. I'm not making him dab. I'm so sorry. I am a robot. Alright, now what do I do? Whoa. Wacky. And that's not what we wanted. that. And we'll set this back. We'll put all you down and move this to be like that. So it's all kind of just trial and error and seeing what works. I don't really like this pose, or this angle, so we're going to change it. Now let's keep going on the pose. Now we can hit G and then Shift Z so that it, moves along the floor plane. Oh, wrong one. And now let's make him grasp. Now this is really fun to do. If you have multiple fingers, you can go into individual origins and then just do local and then hit, I don't know, R, Y, Y. And then it, no, R, Z, Z. There we go. And so now it'll do each rotation on top of the other one. So same thing here. R, Z, Z. We're actually going to want to do a little differently here. Let's move this. Should we rotate him a little bit? Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I want it to be a little snobby, so we can kind of turn his head, but we still look at the camera. Now we can, make this arm, or this hand, slightly open. Now, there we are. Nice. Now, if we, give it a render. Looks alright. What we also want to do is hit Control B, and it limits it to this box. And so now actually, I will be able to, speed up the render time if I so choose to. Actually, yeah, so it is default on 12 bounces. Decrease that to 4, and it'll speed up your render time. Although, it'll cut some quality a bit, I think. Now let's change the lighting, make it, more contrasty. Make this transparent. There we go. Now we have to change our lighting setup, because this is no longer a rim light. So we're going to modify this so it looks more like a rim light. Let's set this to 4. Yeah, that looks really good. Alright. And 6 is fine. I think 4 is fine. Yeah, alright. Let's decrease this. Oh, that's already white. Let's decrease that to 3, actually. Well, yeah. And then make this 1. Decrease the saturation. And we can play around with the colors, too. Just for fun. Make it purple. Or, it's a little too purple, but... Nice. Okay. So, Actually, that's way too purple for my liking. So, we have this so far. We have our character. Now, currently, actually, yeah. I want to join these faces together because when you subdivide it, it makes these cuts here because they're different objects. So all we want to do is just select the objects and hit Control J, and it'll move them all into one object, and then add the materials. Now we just want to remove doubles again, and so that makes it smoother. We also want to subdivide these so that it fits with everything else. Divide, and let's just scale that down just a tad. Yeah, so let's surface. Whoa. There we go. Alright, now if we give it a render, looks pretty good. We're going to change the mouth. And actually, I believe we didn't even... Oh, we forgot to detessellate, so we can just do this. So I hit 3 on the numpad to go into orthographic, and then hit C to enter the brush. Now, if we do Control J, I'm hoping nothing... Or that's Windows J. Calm down. So that face right there. So let's just get rid of that. And are we set? I think we're set. Great. No, we're not. Oh man, did I miss this? Did I miss this? It's fine. Just don't do that in the final, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So let's render it out. Looks really good. Change the mouth like I was going to earlier. Select the lips. Hit O and then change it to connected. So that way it moves based on what's connected to it. Now we can hit G and then Shift X to constrain it to these two axes. And then let's just do that right there. We can even give him a little expression. Make him a little angry. If we so choose. We don't really have to. And so now he looks like YouTube. But now he's not looking at the camera, and we want him to look at the camera. So what we will do is change the UVs on the eye. That way it looks at the camera. So we can just enter UV mode while we're in rendered mode. Select these and then just go. And move it. Nice. Want the eye to be bigger? The eye can be bigger. And same thing with the other eye. Here we go. Select all. Scale down a little bit. So now he's looking at the camera. Nice. Alright. So now once you're all done with that, I would go ahead and give it a render. So we're just going to hit... Actually, what we want to do is set the sampling. So let's set it to 256. That should give us enough detail. And then enable denoising. That'll just make whatever we have that has noise not have noise. Let's see how it looks. In my opinion, that is definitely not enough detail. Let's set it to 200%, so that's 1000, actually it's just 1024. And let's set that to 100%. And then in our final, we can do a 2K or even a 4K render if we so choose. And tweaking is always a thing, so I would like to crank that up a little bit, crank this up to maybe 5, and then make it over here, test it out again, looks better to me. Let's make him lean forward just a bit more. Not like that. And we'll move this. Let's just keep it like that, actually. Alright, save it. Let's do a test render. And you can always go back into the shaders and change the specular or change whatever you want about the material. But for now, I like how this is looking. We can change it if we want, but I like it. Great, okay, so model's been rendered. You can see there's some like small details in there. That's the normal map doing its job. I think this looks pretty good, except for that detail right there that I missed while we were, detriangulating everything. Make sure you don't miss any of those. Feet look good, arms look good. That hand could probably use some changing, but that's all right. Yeah, okay, so let's crank it up to 200 and render it out. I would also change, actually no, we're good, we're set. Alright, it's finished rendering, and now we can, inspect it, make sure it looks all set. Looks pretty good to me, other than that weird spot there, but we can change that in Photoshop. We can just patch it up in Photoshop. But now, we're going to want to go into the compositor, same thing as a node editor, just change it to compositor, hit use nodes, and now we can edit the photo in Blender. Well, to an extent. We're going to color grade and everything. So we can do alpha over. So that's just going to say we can set the background if we so want. Let's change to like a deep. Yeah, that looks nice. We can even set it to like a gradient, really, or an image. But for right now, we're going to use this. Now we can also do curves. So we're going to do RGB curves. Put that in there, and we can change. Like, let's crank up the highlights a bit, and oh, that's too much. So you can see this is the original. Or wait, let's just get rid of the alpha over for right now. That's the original, that's the original, and then we darken it up. We can also change the different, colors, so we can make, more blue, a little more red maybe some deeper greens. Alright, now we can also go into the scene, go into color management. Now what I have Filmic Blender installed, which allows me to get a total of, I think, 25 f-stops. So I can get some pretty nice contrast here. So let's do medium high. I like medium high. Now let's put that in there. Darken. There, that looks pretty good. I like the way that turned out. So now, actually, what we can do as well, I want to do one more thing before we do anything else. I want to add some glare. So it takes the bright parts and makes them, glare a little bit. So, can we... Compositing. Right, so you can see there's a little glare out here. I think that's it though. Can we change it? That looks good. Alright, so let's change it to that. Nice. I like the way that turned out. And now we hit image, save as image, or if you don't want if you want to have it transparent, just do that instead. But yeah, I'll save too. So we do save as image, go here, render alpha, and then this, save as render background. And there you go. So apart from, animating and, some more advanced remodeling techniques, that is how I would go about, taking a game asset and making it, suitable for Blender or suitable for animation. I'm probably going to cut out a bunch of parts, or at least speed it up, so it doesn't take, at this point it's taken an hour, so, but yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.